Diogo Jota, on July 3, 2025, just after midnight, on the A52 motorway near Cernadia in northwestern Spain, 28-year-old Liverpool forward Diogo Jota was driving through darkness and empty countryside. He had just married the love of his life days earlier. His wedding photos were still circulating online. Pre-season training awaited him in England. Football was supposed to resume as normal. Jota had recently undergone minor lung surgery in Porto. Doctors advised him not to fly, so instead of boarding a plane, he chose the slower route home, a drive across Spain to Santander, then a ferry to England. His younger brother, André Silva, 25, sat beside him. The plan was simple: drive through the night, rest in Benavente, finish the journey in the morning. They never reached their stop. Shortly after 12:30 a.m., witnesses reported the Lamborghini Huracan traveling at extremely high speed. During an overtaking maneuver, investigators believe a rear tire blew out. The car veered violently off the road, struck the barrier, and erupted into flames. Emergency services arrived to find the vehicle completely engulfed. Both brothers were dead at the scene. Jota left behind a wife of 2 weeks and 3 young children. Liverpool would later retire his number. Tributes poured in from teammates, managers, presidents, musicians, and fans around the world. His name was still listed on the club website under one word: forever. Marc-Vivien Foé. 22 years earlier, on June 26, 2003, at the Stade de Gerland in Lyon, Cameroon were minutes away from reaching a Confederations Cup final. Marc-Vivien Foé, 28, was patrolling midfield, exactly as he had done his entire career, tirelessly, selflessly, without glamour. Foé was playing in what felt like home. He had worn Lion's shirt before. He insisted on starting despite recent illness. His manager noticed an unusual weakness and considered substituting him. Foé waved it off. In the 72nd minute, with no players near him, Foé slowed, bent forward, and collapsed in the center circle. There was no tackle or collision, just silence. Teammates panicked and medics were rushed to the pitch. CPR began immediately. Oxygen, defibrillation. For 45 minutes, doctors fought for his life, first on the grass, then in the stadium medical center. His heart briefly restarted, then it stopped again. Foé was announced dead shortly after arrival. 2 autopsies followed. The second revealed hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, an undetected hereditary heart condition. Manchester City retired his shirt. Cameroon players learned of his death while celebrating the victory. Foé left behind a wife and 3 children, one of them just 2 months old. Diego Maradona. In early November 2020, Diego Maradona was recovering from emergency brain surgery in a rented house north of Buenos Aires. The greatest footballer to be born was 60 years old. His body had been battered by decades of alcohol and cocaine addiction. He needed constant medical supervision. Instead, he was discharged into home care without a defibrillator or a full-time doctor. In the days that followed, his condition deteriorated. Fluid built up in his lungs, and it became difficult to breathe. Nurses checked on him intermittently. For more than 12 hours, Maradona's heart struggled. On November the 25th, he suffered cardiac arrest. By the time paramedics were called, it was too late. Autopsy results later showed acute pulmonary edema and heart failure. Argentina declared national mourning. Millions lined the streets. Years later, multiple members of his medical team were charged with negligent homicide. Maradona did not die suddenly, he died slowly. The worst is that his death could have been avoided. Antonio Puerta, on August 25, 2007, at the Ramon Sanchez Pizjuan Stadium in Seville, Antonio Puerta was starting the opening match of the La Liga season against Getafe. He was 22 years old, a local boy, and one of Sevilla's most promising defenders. Midway through the first half, he suddenly crouched, tried to steady himself, then collapsed near his own goal. Teammates sprinted over as medical staff rushed onto the pitch. Doctors managed to revive him. Puerta stood up and walked off the field under his own power, heading toward the dressing room. Minutes later, away from the cameras, he collapsed again. Over the next 3 days, Puerta suffered multiple cardiac arrests in intensive care. His organs began shutting down. On August 28th at 2:30 p.m., Antonio Puerta was pronounced dead. The cause was arrhythmogenic cardiomyopathy. an inherited heart disease. His girlfriend was pregnant with their first child. In the aftermath, FIFA ordered resuscitation rooms and emergency protocols in stadiums worldwide. Christian Atsu. On February 6, 2023, in the early hours of the morning, a powerful earthquake struck southern Turkey, flattening entire neighborhoods in Antakya. Christian Atsu, 31, was inside the residential building where Hatayspor players were housed. Just hours earlier, he had scored a dramatic stoppage-time winner for his club. He was meant to leave the country that night. A flight had been booked. He decided to stay. When the ground began to shake, the building collapsed in seconds. While the teammates escaped, Atsu did not. Confusion followed almost immediately. Club officials publicly claimed he had been rescued and taken to hospital. The news was wrong. As days passed, search teams combed the rubble. 2 pairs of Atsu's shoes were found beneath the debris, but there was still no sign of him. On February 18th, 12 days after the quake, his body was recovered from the ruins. Atsu was flown home to Ghana. He was given a state-assisted funeral. His wife and children walked behind the coffin, a nation watching in silence. Peter Biaksangzuala. On October 14, 2014, in Mizoram, a remote northeastern state of India, Bethlehem Vengthlang FC were trailing late in a Mizoram Premier League match. Peter Biaksangzuala, 23, was a defensive midfielder, a role built on discipline, not goals. He rarely found himself in the spotlight. In the 62nd minute, a loose ball fell to him inside the box. He struck it cleanly. The ball crossed the line. It was a rare moment of celebration. Teammates raised their arms and the crowd erupted. Biaksangzuala began to celebrate, copying the acrobatic flips he had seen on television. The first rotation landed cleanly. The second followed. The final backflip broke his back, literally. Mid-rotation, his body lost alignment. He came down head first. His neck absorbed the full impact. He did not move. At first, teammates ran toward him to celebrate, then stopped. Something was terribly wrong. Medical staff rushed him off the pitch to a nearby hospital. CT scans revealed severe spinal cord damage. Despite intensive care and surgery, his condition deteriorated. 5 days later, Peter Biaksangzuala was dead. His club retired his number 21 shirt. A moment of joy lasted seconds. The consequences lasted forever. Pelé on December 29, 2022, at 3:27 p.m., Pelé died in a hospital in São Paulo, Brazil. He was 82 years old. For more than a year, his health had been slowly declining after doctors diagnosed him with colon cancer. In 2021, Pelé underwent surgery and months of chemotherapy. At first, there was hope, but the cancer spread to his lungs and liver. By late 2022, the treatment stopped working. Doctors shifted him to palliative care, focusing only on comfort. In November, a respiratory infection worsened his condition. He was admitted back to hospital. In his final days, his kidneys, heart, and lungs began to fail one by one. His body, once unstoppable, could no longer fight. Brazil mourned immediately. 3 days of national mourning were declared. Stadiums fell silent. Fans gathered outside hospitals and arenas, holding jerseys and candles. Pelé was gone. Even kings do not escape time. Hernan Gaviria. On October 24, 2002, at the Deportivo Cali training ground in Colombia, preparations were underway for another routine session. Hernan Gaviria, 32, known by the nickname Carepa, was running drills alongside teammates. He was an experienced professional, a husband, a father of 2, and a respected presence in the squad. Dark clouds began to gather overhead and thunder echoed in the distance. Training continued. There was no evacuation, no stoppage. Moments later, a bolt of lightning struck the pitch with explosive force. Players were thrown to the ground. Panic followed. Gaviria was hit directly. He collapsed immediately. Medics rushed to his side, but there was nothing they could do. He was pronounced dead shortly after arriving at hospital. His teammate, Giovanni Cordoba, had also been struck. He would die 3 days later from his injuries. Gaviria's death sent shockwaves through Colombian football. A routine afternoon had turned fatal in seconds. He left behind a wife and 2 young children. If you'd like to see more stories like this, make sure to subscribe and feel free to drop suggestions for the next video in the comments.